everybody. David reporting for Kids First, and today I'm joined with my teammate Avalon, and we will be speaking with Alex Holmes and Greg LeMond to discuss The Last Rider. Greg LeMond is an incredible athlete who this documentary is about. He competed in the famous Tour de France in 1989 and became the first and last American currently to win the race. Alex Holmes was nominated for many BAFTA awards for Best Director and Best Drama Serial. He won an award for the TV series Dunkirk, which he directed. Welcome, Mr. Holmes and Mr. LeMond.
Hey, David. Hey, Avalon. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you.
Good. This is Greg.
Hi. How are you guys?
Hello.
I'm
I'm
good.
sure you'll know who he is from the film, and I'm Alex. I was the director of the film.
All right. So I guess to start us off, Mr. Holmes, when were you first aware of this story and what drew you to making this documentary?
I first encountered Greg's story when I was actually making another film about cycling, about a much darker era in cycling, about when people were taking performance-enhancing drugs to try and cheat. And I was really struck by how Greg's career had really been at its height in the era before any of these drugs were available, and how he was a real champion by comparison with the people who were cheating to win in that other film that I made. And I really wanted to make a positive film about what people can achieve through sport, about the great things that athletes can do, and how they can overcome problems and challenges if they just really focus on their goals and just commit and never give up. And Greg's story just seemed to speak to all of those things. You know, his perseverance, his positivity, even though he was beset by some of the most challenging problems an athlete could face, including getting shot and almost killed in a hunting accident. You know, he still believed that he wanted to do this sport, and he committed to it, and he doubled down on his efforts. And, you know, he came through, and I thought it was just a really inspiring story.
Definitely.
Mr. LeMond, how does it feel to remember these impactful moments in your life or revisit them?
I know it's a long time ago. You guys weren't even a thought, probably. So I'm like an ancient dinosaur, probably, for most. But it seems like it was yesterday. It's a very powerful, you know, in your life. And I think sports are, especially for me, I didn't even expect to become a professional cyclist. I didn't even know the sport existed. And then to go on and hear and learn about the Tour de France is one of the biggest events and sporting events in the world, like World Cup soccer. You know, when I think back now, I appreciate it more than when I was racing. And but it seems like it was yesterday. Those moments are very powerful. So you wish you could relive those every year. But I'm fortunate I was able to just get those 3 Tour de France victories in my career.
Wow, that's amazing. Mr. Holmes, what were your first communications with LeMond like?
Well, you know, I think Greg and his wife Kathy, who both appear in the film, had thought I did a reasonable job on the first film I had interviewed them for, and so I was very grateful that they were prepared to trust me with telling their story, because I think it's a big deal to take your own history and to give it over to a filmmaker and say, you know, yeah, I think you're going to do a good job with this. So I was very grateful that they trusted me, that they gave me their time, that they gave me so many photos and home movies of their lives, and they just allowed me to tell the story as I saw it. And of course, I talked to them a lot about what their memories were and what their experience were, and we did some very, very long interviews. Greg probably remembers just how long they were. I really put him through the mill, but they were just so generous with their time, and with they just shared all their perspectives on their lives, and you know, that just gave me great material to work with, and then I fashioned it in the edit, and I'm pleased to say they seem happy with the result.
Well, that was very nice of you to do that for Mr. LeMond.
Well, I feel like I was the lucky one, actually, because when people trust you with their stories, for me, that's such a valuable thing, something to be cherished when someone allows you into their life to portray them on screen. It's a bit like painting a portrait of someone, and I think that's a responsibility to be true, to be honest, and to paint a portrait that they can recognize of themselves.
Mr. LeMond, how does it feel to share your story with the world?
Well, I said I'm the last person who wants to see me on camera. So I don't know. I have a weird thing about reading about me or watching me, but I think I'm fortunate that, it's very rare for a filmmaker to actually want to do a documentary or a film. And so I kind of look at it as if, even thought of writing a book is to me kind of like a little bit narcissistic at times. It could be. But then you start looking at it and going, it's really for your kids and your family. And I think even my kids had no clue about what was going on. Even though they were born at that time, we assume they know everything about what happened. And they love they love the film. And I said it was like a reliving in a way their childhood. So I kind of look at it that way as, documenting something on film. I think it's a great way to tell people's story. And I think I'm inspired by different people, not just athletes, people who overcome adversity. And to me, those are the ones that I say true champions, because it's when I was winning the tour before I got shot, it was a breeze. It was like I didn't even have a bad day. But then when you almost lose your life and having to come back, and I think that's overcoming those obstacles really made me appreciate my second Tour de France. By far, it's the most exciting one for me.
That sounds really amazing.
I should say that Greg is actually a very shy person. He's a very humble person for a world champion, but he's also very, very shy. And I really had to twist his arm a little bit to persuade him to go on camera. But he was brave enough to give it a go.
It's more. I'm only shy when I'm talking about myself, because it seems like hard even. I'm glad my wife was there, because she could, whatever, say what she wants. But for me, it's kind of like I was a cyclist, big deal. There are a lot of people do some great stuff in the world. And I always look at athletes. It's also self-driven. It's not always doing stuff for somebody else. So that's why I think like Muhammad Ali, one of my favorite athletes, period, because he really stood up for civil rights. He protested the Vietnam War. When you look back at his story, that's inspiring to me. And so I wish I had more, was more like Muhammad Ali. But so I think, and Alex is also humble. He did a film called Maiden, Stop at Nothing, and he's a great storyteller. So I was happy to have him be part of that. And
Mr. Holmes, where did you find all the footage and the never seen before clips?
Well, a lot of it came from Greg's garage.
I got probably a truckload of stuff back. I didn't know I had that much. Mainly came from my mom and my wife's mother that saved stuff. So then they gave it to us. So we have a lot of stuff. I can't even sort through it.
Yeah, so there were boxes and boxes of Greg's sort of family photos and videotapes from back in the day when we had videotapes that had been recorded off the television, and we went through all of that. But then, of course, we had to go to the broadcasters who had filmed the Tour de France at the time, and get them to share their material and license it off them and piece it together, because often these things aren't very well curated. Sport is on the whole is a very transitory thing. It happens on the day that it happens, and that's the big day, and that's when all the coverage goes out and the news reports are done. And then what do you do with this stuff? Well, you don't always take great care of it. So it was a big job to go and piece it all together and find the little shards of footage, little bits of footage everywhere, and kind of glue it back together to make the whole story.
Definitely.
Mr. LeMond, what was your experience doing these interviews like?
Well, because of COVID, it was remote, and I usually do better in person, but Alex was over in England. I was here in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I wasn't feeling good that day. So I don't know how. I was actually diagnosed with leukemia, I think last year. And I think I was struggling through that for the last couple of years, not knowing it, but I had a lot of bad days and couldn't figure out why. So he got me on a really bad day. It didn't look too good. And so, but it was, I've done interviews my whole career. And sometimes, especially some of the stuff that Alex interviewed me, I haven't talked about that stuff really publicly in some of the stuff that happened before my cycling career, but also just talking about, it's good memories. So it's most of them are good memories. In the end, you end up minimizing the difficult days and highlighting all the really positive days. And that's how people get to move on from setbacks, because those setbacks become smaller and smaller as you look back. You just start remembering the good days.
Mr. Holmes, how has your experience directing other films helped you direct this documentary?
Well, I think all films want to tell a story, and so the more stories you tell, the more experienced you are. And every story is different, but they all, you always want to look for what the message is. Why tell this story? Why this story, not another story? And I found Greg's story so inspiring that was the thing that I kept in the front of my mind. And I thought, how do I reflect in the film the inspiring feelings that Greg gives to me? And that's what I wanted to imbue the film with, this sense of hope that and optimism, that even when things look really bleak and life is really challenging, that if you lean on those who love you, and if you ask for their support, they will give it. And if you find the strength inside yourself, then you can still achieve great things. And I think that was that's what I got up every day when I was making this film and thought, that's the story I want to tell. And it was an inspiring story. So it's easier to tell those stories, I think.
And one last question for both of you. What do you hope viewers will take away from this story?
Well, that's a difficult one for me to say. I just hope that people could look at it, and since then I've had a lot of adversity in life, and I think the one thing I keep saying was, one of the coaches on the interview, a guy named Cyril Guimard, was both my coach and my competition, but he always said, the race is never over till the finish line. And that in life, that's really, it's never, never give up. And it's never really over. You just got to keep your focus, and you got to, you can overcome a lot of stuff, humans do. And I think there's anything, if some people could take some inspiration from that, that'd be great.
And for my part, I think the strongest lesson that I took from this film, and what I would like audiences to take from it, is the most empowering thing you could do is focus on what you do. Just think about giving your best performance. Just think about trying your hardest. Think about being your best self. Don't worry about the opposition. Don't worry about the competition. Just focus on you. And if you focus on you, then you're going to do your very best. And if you finish the day feeling like you've done your best, well, then that's a great day. If every day you do your best, then no one can ask any more from you. And I think that's a great lesson to learn.
All right. Well, thank you both for talking with us.
Thank you. Great interview.
Not at all. Our pleasure. Great.
Thank you for speaking with us, Alex Holmes and Greg LeMond. You can watch The Last Rider and Dieters beginning June 23rd, 2023. Again, my name is David Eason, reporting for Kids First. Please subscribe to our Kids First channel so you don't miss any of the latest interviews or reviews by me or any of my teammates. Bye now.